Intuitive Machines' crewless Odysseus spacecraft made the first moon landing by an American vehicle in more than 50 years on Thursday night, completing a week-long journey from Earth after a short delay and marked the first soft moon landing by a private company. The landing of Ulysses near the moon's south pole was the first lunar landing by a U.S. entity since Apollo 17 in 1972, although other countries have launched spacecraft to the moon more recently, including China in 2019 and Japan earlier this year. This also ended the series of failed attempts by the U.S., including Astrobotic Technology, whose Peregrine lander malfunctioned on its journey to the moon, before burning up while trying to re-enter Earth's atmosphere last month. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson confirmed the spacecraft's landing after it was detected by a faint signal, saying it had made the landing of a lifetime, and he called this a giant step forward for all humanity. Odysseus, the telephone booth-sized spacecraft that launched into space earlier this month on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, is expected to spend a week collecting data on the moon's surface first, when the power goes out, although its behavior on the moon's surface remains uncertain. As we continue, please support us by clicking on the subscription button and turn on the notification bell for more updates. Its final hours in lunar orbit were bogged down by problems, including a loss of communications before landing, as well as problems with the spacecraft's laser instruments failing, caused a 2-hour delay in landing. NASA has awarded $118 million to Intuitive Machines to perform lunar landings, as part of the space agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program, an initiative aimed at allowing companies privately developed lunar lander. NASA plans to continue hiring private companies to transport scientific instruments and other cargo to the moon as the agency embarks on the epic Artemis mission to return astronauts to the moon. After launching the uncrewed Artemis I mission into lunar orbit in 2022, the agency has faced several setbacks, including last month when it delayed 2 missions due to problems. Engineering, postponing the Artemis II mission from November 2024 to September 2025. NASA has defended the program, saying it hopes to strengthen scientists' knowledge of space exploration and establishing a permanent presence on the moon, while also potentially sending astronauts to Mars for the first time. $93 billion. Here's the projected cost of the Artemis program from start to finish, even with delaying the Artemis II mission to 2025 and its Artemis III mission, i.e. sending 3 NASA astronauts to the surface moon, through at least September 2026 may add to this cost. Before all this works of NASA comes to reality, get to the man behind the scenes. Less than 24 hours before flying to the Middle East and South Korea to meet with investors, Kamal Ghaffarian found a few hours in his schedule. Taking off his coat, he sat in a chair in his office, a nondescript 4-story building in suburban Maryland. He asked, "Have you heard people call me Crazy Cam?" "That's a good question." The list of companies Ghaffarian founded reads like the pages of a science fiction novel. Axiom Space is building the world's first commercial space station in partnership with NASA and has also designed the next generation of spacesuits. The next time you see astronauts walking on the lunar surface, they will be wearing Axiom Space spacesuits, he added. Intuitive Machines is building the lunar lander and will send one to the moon's south pole in January, weather permitting, one of several planned launches that will open up the moon to commercial missions. Quantum Space is creating a space highway to help spacecraft refuel and travel in the area between Earth and the moon. And back here on Planet, X Energy is producing small, advanced, and meltdown-proof nuclear reactors that can power anything from an isolated military base to a factory. Dow's 4,700 acres of chemicals are up the coast from the. This is crazy, but according to Ghaffarian, all companies have a common goal. We need to become a multiplanetary species and be able to go to other stars. But in the meantime, we only have one home, right? If you take care of it all, we have to take care of our existing house and find a new one, he said, adding with a laugh. The space industry is dominated by tycoons who have invested money in rockets, rovers, and orbital missions. But unlike Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson, Ghaffarian, 65, is a rare example of becoming a billionaire largely through his space activities, rather than getting into it after making money. A lot of money. The key to this success is culture, he said. But in a $546 billion industry, it is still led by the United States. The South American government, according to the nonprofit Space Foundation, is actually the one who is better than Cam Ghaffarian at winning the US dollar on a competitive basis. J. Clay Sell, CEO of X Energy and former Deputy Secretary of the U.S. Department of Energy. Uncle Sam is of course not the only game in town. Ghaffarian already has a long list of commercial customers, including the Cedars-Sinai Medical System, for microgravity stem cell research, the champagne maker GH Mum, a sparkling wine designed to be enjoyed in space, and Japanese corporation Mitsui, also have a partnership with Axiom Space. Then there are foreign governments, like Canada and Saudi Arabia, as well as individuals who will pay for access to space. The company has successfully completed 2 completely private crewed missions to the International Space Station, ISS, with Musk's SpaceX in April 2022 and last month. The first mission carried 3 commercial astronauts and the second flight hosted 2 Saudi astronauts. As of August, the company announced it had secured more than $2.2 billion in customer contracts. This achievement helped him convince investors. In August, Axiom Space raised an additional $350 million in a funding round led by Saudi Arabian firm Al Jazeera Capital and Korean pharmaceutical company Boryung. The company is valued at $2.1 billion, according to a filing by another backer, ARK Invest. That same month, Intuitive Machines, which listed on Nasdaq via a blank check company in February, closed on a $20 million private investment, bolstering its finances after a difficult start with a public company, whose investors include Dow and private equity firm Ares Management, is valued at around $1.1 billion in September. The latest and smallest portion of his fortune is Quantum Space, which raised $15 million in December. In total, Forbes estimates Ghaffarian is worth $2.2 billion, mostly through stakes in its space and nuclear startups. Not bad for an Iranian immigrant to Washington, D.C., in 1976, with a $2,000 loan from his uncle to attend college. People think of Bezos, Musk, Branson, and rightly so, said Chris Stott, founder and CEO of Lone Star Data Holdings, which is working with Intuitive Machines to store data on the lunar surface. They should also put Cam Ghaffarian on this list because he does the same, and he's pretty smart because he exploits everything that Jeff and Elon are doing. Ghaffarian may be an asteroid in a large galaxy, compared to Musk and Bezos, who deploy billions. But he sees these tycoons not as rivals but as partners. I have a lot of respect for Elon and SpaceX president, Gwynne Shotwell. These are great friends. So does Jeff Bezos, he said. Like other famous space entrepreneurs, Ghaffarian has much bolder plans. The immediate goal of building the first commercial space station and lunar lander is to reduce the cost of going to space, in the same way that SpaceX's reusable rockets have made launch missions cheaper, easier, and faster. Think of a Tom Cruise movie shot on a real space station or the development of drugs in zero gravity that Ghaffarian's companies are helping to make possible. But this is only the beginning. In the long term, he said, our ultimate destiny is that humanity will become interstellar. The first step is low Earth orbit, which is the space station. Then there's the moon, with its landers and human outposts, and after that? Technologies that could go beyond our solar system, and competition is fierce across the board. In the nuclear industry, Bill Gates's TerraPower is building a larger pilot reactor than X Energy, which also won a contract from the Department of Energy at the same time as the cabinet by Ghaffarian in 2020. In the space station space, Axiom Space will also go up against Bezos's Blue Origin and Sierra Space, founded by billionaire couple Aaron and Fadi Osman, as well as industry giants Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, is partnering with Voyager Space, based in Denver. And other startups, including crypto billionaire Jed McCaleb's Vast. And alongside Astrobotic and Blue Origin, Japanese startup iSpace is planning a second mission to the moon in 2024 after its first lander crashed on the lunar surface in April last year, due to software glitches. Ghaffarian isn't worried, envisioning a future where there will be enough business for several small nuclear reactors, space stations, and companies delivering payloads to the moon. Competition is healthy, he said. It makes you more creative and innovative. We want to encourage competitors because this market is going to grow, adds C5 Capital's sharer. Gafarian's most ambitious project is the Infinite Space Institute, a non-profit he says he dreamed up while at home meditating and thinking about the universe. "What drives me is my spirituality and my trust in God," he says. Based in Houston, the institute is also run by NASA veterans, partners with schools and colleges, university, and fund research into technologies that could one day enable interstellar travel, from fusion-powered spacecraft, theoretically possible, but far from with reality, to space drives, wormholes, and space curves, still purely conceptual. Gafarian probably wouldn't have been there if any of these events had occurred. But he envisions as a short-term future where humans live full-time on the space station and on the moon. The next step in this vision is to launch intuitive machines to the moon in January. Next up is Axiom Space's astronaut mission, also scheduled for early next year. The first part of the new space station is expected to be attached to the ISS in 2026. Axiom Space is the only company capable of docking its modules there, and the entire structure will be operational in 2031, when the ISS will be withdrawn. "When you talk about 10, 15, 20 years from now, I hope we have a space city, a place where people can actually come and live," he said. "It will be a very good foundation for further human space exploration." For Gafarian, the motivation for building the space station and lunar lander was never simply to become rich. "Although investments in these areas made him very rich, I didn't want to be the richest person in the cemetery, and I didn't want my life to revolve around making more money," he said, recalling the moment he sold his first business. "I want my life to be more focused on making a difference, changing the world for the better." Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.